A very good evening to you. And welcome along to Sweet and Swing, for what will be the last Sweet and Swing of the year. So what have we got? Well, I thought, being the end of the year, we could maybe skip through a few years of Sweet and Swing eras. So from 1929 through the 30s and up to the early 50s. How does that sound? And we'll start then in 1929 with Ray Starita and the Blue Hills of Pasadena.
Pasadena are calling me home. Blue hills of Pasadena are calling o'er the phone. So my grip I'm gonna pack and find that little shack. Just a humble, rough and tumble, home sweet home, but I don't grumble. Blue hills of Pasadena, I'm heading for you. Tired of always being on the road, I'll own. When I think of my soft pillows in that nest among the willows, Blue hills of Pasadena are calling me home.
That's as good a way as any to get going, isn't it? Ray Starita, he of the Commodore band in the 1920s, and one of a family of Staritas, at least two or three of them, I think. There was Rudy Starita, I think, who played drums, and there was also brother Al Starita. I don't know how many Staritas there were in total, but they were quite popular in their day, as were titles starting with Blue, because looking at this collection from 1929, the first three are all by the Staritas, and they all start Blue. So the first one is Blue Days Are Over with Ray Starita. Then we've Bluegrass with Al Starita. And then we just heard the Blue Hills of Pasadena with Ray Starita. And Betty Bolson taking the vocals there back in 1929. A year, well, I dare say not too many of you listening will remember 1929 that well. If you do, congratulations to you. I hope you are staying happy and healthy and enjoying the music still. I'll give you a few aide-memoire, perhaps, of what might have happened. Ramsay MacDonald has returned to number 10 at the head of a Labour government in 1929, but not with an overall Commons majority. And he pledged to tackle the problem of unemployment, which had passed the 1 million mark. In foreign affairs, Britain agreed a draft treaty under which it withdrew troops from the whole of Egypt, with the exception of the Suez Canal. There was a cinema fire in Paisley in Scotland on New Year's Eve. Oh dear. And 69 people died, most of them children between the age of 5 and 14. Sounds a terrible thing, doesn't it? Right on the evening. And early in December, a 94 miles an hour hurricane swept through Britain, and that caused 26 deaths. It's amazing to think, we just had a pretty windy spell, haven't we? But certainly not a 96 mile an hour hurricane, I'm glad to say. On to slightly brighter things. Britain won the Schneider Cup on the 7th of September and set a new airspeed record using a Supermarine S6 Spitfire. I think that was one. It was a seaplane, wasn't it? Yeah. I used to make a model. I had a model of that at one stage going way back in the days. Lily Langtry, the famous actress, she died at the age of 76. In the theatre, among stage entertainments, engaging audiences were R.C. Sheriff's Journey's End, Bernard Shaw's The Apple Cart, and Noel Coward's Bitter Sweet. And fashion-wise, well, skirts were on the way down. They weren't getting shorter, they were getting longer in 1929. Skirt lengths carry on lengthening. Multiple bangles were very much in vogue, and double-breasted jackets and waistcoats very popular for the gents. Yes, double-breasted jackets have gone out a bit. I still enjoy a waistcoat, it has to be said. But I've got some double-breasted jackets, but I don't wear them as often. I seem to have... and you see more of the single-breasted jackets now for gents, don't you? At least I think you do. I certainly do, in any case. OK, where are we skipping to? We'll skip forward then to 1933. I think this is, or is going to be, in any case. And have a listen to this.
Every little star, just how sweet I think you are. Why haven't I told you? I've told ripples in the brook, made my heart an open book. Why haven't I told you? Friends ask me, am I in love? I always answer yes. Might as well confess. If I don't, they guess. Maybe you may know it too. Oh, my darling, if you do, why haven't you told me? I make up things to say on my way to you. On my way to you, I find things to say. I can write poems too while you're far away. When you're far away, I write poems too. But when you are near, my lips go dry. When you are near, I only sigh. I've told every little star just how sweet I think you are. Why haven't I told you? I've told ripples in a brook, made my heart an open book. Why haven't I told you? Friends ask me, am I in love? I always answer yes. Might as well confess. If I don't, they guess. Maybe you may know it too. Oh, my darling, if you do, why haven't you told me? I've told every little song just how sweet I think you are. Why haven't I told you? I've told ripples my heart an open book. Why haven't I told you? Friends ask me, am I in love? I always answer yes. Might as well confess, if I don't they guess. Maybe you may know it too. Oh my darling, if you do, why haven't you told me?
I've told every little star. Leighton and Johnston in 1933. Very popular piano duo in the 20s and 30s, consisting of Turner Leighton, of course, and Clarence Tandy Johnston, formed in New York in 1922 and moved over to England in 1924 and had immediate success this side of the pond. And then between 24 and 1935, they managed to sell over 10 million records. Not bad going, chaps, not bad going. They appeared at all the top venues in London, in Paris and across Europe. They gave command performances for the British royal family on numerous occasions and also were frequently to be heard, I suppose I should say, on BBC radio. But then they disbanded in 1935 after Clarence became involved in a rather highly publicised divorce scandal. I think we talked about that earlier in the year, didn't we? We won't dwell on it now, I must admit. We don't want to rake over old coals, as they say. I don't know how well it ended, but yes, you think these sort of celebrity scandal is new, but oh, not a bit of it goes all the way back, it has to be said. 1933 that was. I've told every little star. So what was happening in 1933? Well, despite calls for unilateral disarmament, Britain planned to increase its defences to match those of other nations. Employment was still bad. We're talking about 1 million earlier on. By 1933, unemployment in Britain had exceeded 2 million. The TUC, the Trades Union Congress, called for a boycott of Germany in protest at Hitler's appointment as Chancellor. Yes, we're heading towards, of course, the beginning of the Second War. Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald met Mussolini to discuss disarmament. And the Prince of Wales, later the Duke of Windsor, of course, undertook a series of visits to the underprivileged in areas of the country. The first Lions Corner House opened in London, and a new map, the one we use today, I believe, of the London Underground first appeared in 1933. And in sport, Arsenal won the First Division, Everton took the FA Cup, and in cricket, the controversial Bodyline Cricket Tour of Australia ended with England winning the Ashes, and Yorkshire, meanwhile, made it a hat-trick of county championships.
They asked me how I knew my true love was true. I, of course, replied, something here inside cannot be denied. They said someday you'll find all who love are blind. When your heart's on fire, you must realize smoke gets in your eyes. So I chaffed them and I gaily laughed to think they could doubt my love. Yet today my love has flown away. I am without my love. Now laughing friends deride tears I cannot hide. So I smile and say, when a lovely flame dies, smoke gets in your eyes.
chaffed them and I gaily laughed to think they could doubt my love. Yet today my love has flown away. I am without my love. Now laughing friends deride, tears I cannot hide. So I smile and say, when a lovely flame dies, smoke gets in your eyes.
Phyllis Johnson with orchestral, I should say, accompaniment. There, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Rather a nice version of that. God, I like that one. From 1934, of course, the year where the first red phone boxes appeared. Public telephone kiosks previously had been all sorts of different shapes and colours and designs and such like, and they were all made uniform. The new design by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott, the classic, still iconic red phone box, first appeared in 1934, of course. Still a lot of depression in the country, it must be said. Sir Edward Mosley's fascist rallies ended in uproar. Winston Churchill warned the Commons of the need to rearm against Germany, and Hitler shocked the international banking community by announcing he was no longer going to pay off Germany's foreign debt. And then, of course, during the Night of the Long Knives, he executed many of his potential rivals. H.G. Wells predicted that war would start by 1940. Wasn't far off, was he? It has to be said. And King George V opened the Mersey Tunnel, the longest underwater crossing at that time in the world, would you believe? In science, in a special bathysphere, William Beebe went down 3,000 feet underwater off the coast of Bermuda. And in sport, Italy beat Czechoslovakia 2-1 to win the World Cup in Rome. But then they were beaten 3-2 by England at Highbury. The home of champions Arsenal provided no fewer than 7 of the home team. And who was born that year? Well, the composer, William Matthias, the first man in space, Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, was born in 1934. Makes you sort of realise how quickly we've moved on, don't you? 1930, and the first man in space was only just being born. And Brigitte Bardot and Sophia Loren, both were born in 1934. Amazing, isn't it? We're going to skip to 1936. Now, getting rather close to the war, it has to be said. And how about a bit of facts? It's a sin to tell a lie.
Billions of hearts have been broken, yes, yes. Just because these words were spoken. You know the words that were spoken? Here it is. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Yes, but if you break my heart, I'll break your jaw and then I'll die. So be sure it's true when you say I love you. It's a sin to tell a lie. Now get on out there and tell your lie. What is it?
said. It's a sin to tell a lie. That's what he said. The inimitable Fats Waller, back in his pomp in 1936, the year in which, of course, King George V passed away. He died on the 20th of January at the age of 70, succeeded by Edward VIII, who promptly announced his decision to abdicate, of course, to be free to marry Wallace Simpson. He said he couldn't carry the burden of kingship and discharge his duties without the help and support of the woman I love. And, of course, Edward's younger brother, Shy Bertie, took over as King George VI. Speaking of Oswald Mosley, as we were earlier on, a year or so back, a public order bill was published to ban the wearing of political uniforms after the rise of Mosley, the fascist leader whose black shirts, of course, provoked violence during meetings and marches. As we head towards the outbreak of the war, the first test flight of the Spitfire took place. It demonstrated the plane's great speed and its manoeuvrability, and also the power, of course, of the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. And the Crystal Palace, designed for the Great Exhibition of 1851, sadly burnt down in 1936. Franklin D. Roosevelt became the President of the States for a second term. Englishwoman Mrs. Beryl Markham, this is the lady you don't often hear that much of, she became the first woman to complete a solo flight across the Atlantic from east to west. And what was popular? Well, Fats Waller was fairly popular, but people were humming along to When I'm Cleaning Windows by, yes, George Formby. Came out, of course, in 1936. Your feet's too big with the ink spots, and let's face the music and dance with Fred Astaire was in the musical Follow the Fleet. And this woman must be heard singing as well, as she was for quite a few years afterwards.
One evening long ago, a big ship was leaving. One evening long ago, two lovers were grieving. A crimson sun went down, the lights began to glow. Across the harbor, one evening long ago, I saw the same old harbor lights that once brought you to me. I watched the harbor lights. How could I help if tears were starting? Goodbye to tender nights beside the I longed to hold you near and kiss you just once more. But you were on the ship and I was on the shore. Now I know lonely nights, for all the while my heart is some other harbor lights will steal your love from me.
Harbour Lights, with, of course, Vera Lynn, later Dame Vera Lynn, who went on to become the Force's sweetheart throughout the war and carried on singing for years, nay, decades afterwards. And I think I'm right in saying she had a #1 hit at the age of 100 when was it We'll Meet Again got back into the charts, or White Cliffs of Dover? I don't recall which. Suffice to say, a fairly long career from someone who was originally told she didn't have much of a voice. I think I'm right in saying on that one. Well, 1937 that was, of course. And what happened then? Well, there was uproar in October of that year when Edward VIII, now the Duke of Windsor, with his wife, the former Wallis Simpson, visited Hitler and pictured smiling smugly with the German Chancellor. I'm afraid that did no end of harm to his reputation over the years. Unemployment, 1.3 million. And here's something which might resonate with 2023. Buying power much reduced by the rising cost of living, with industrial disputes soaring to more than 1,000 compared to a mere 302 in 1928. The German airship, the Hindenburg, exploded in a fireball whilst mooring at Lakehurst, New Jersey on the 6th of May at the end of its maiden flight. 33 of its 117 passengers lost their life, sadly. Sir Malcolm Campbell, he captured the world speedboat record for Britain. More than 129 miles an hour he clocked to beat American Garwood's 1932 time by almost 4 miles an hour. And then 2 months later, another Briton, George Easton, set a new world land speed record, 311 miles per hour. And Corky the Cat. Who remembers Corky the Cat? He became the front page star of a new comic, which of course was The Dandy. Don't think it's still going anymore, is it? Launched by publisher D.E. Thompson of Dundee. The first issue of The Dandy also introduced Jimmy and his Grockle, Smarty Grandpa, and a predecessor of the Bruins.
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. With a cheer, not a tear, make it gay. Give me a smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye.
A jolly tune for what probably wasn't very jolly times. 1939. Joe Loss with Chick Henderson. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Like I said, very upbeat and positive sounding music. Almost sort of frivolous sounding at the beginning. And yet, of course, for a lot of people who were waved goodbye, never came back again. For that matter, Chick Henderson, the very vocalist we heard there singing along, didn't survive the end of the war. He was in the Navy and survived for several years. He survived 2 torpedo attacks on his own boats or his own ships when he was actually at sea, but then tragically sustained fatal wounds when he was actually in Britain, in South Sea, from flying bomb shrapnel. I think it was covered up a little bit at the time, if memory serves correct, but yeah, someone who didn't survive the war, as so many people didn't, sadly. Perhaps this next one, there's another one which was designed to keep spirits up, perhaps, hanging out that washing on the Siegfried Line.
Dear, I'm writing you from somewhere in France, hoping this finds you well. Sergeant says I'm doing fine, a soldier and a half. Here's the song that we'll all sing, it'll make you laugh. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried Line. Have you any dirty washing, mother dear? We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried Line, 'cause the washing day is here. Whether the weather may be wet or fine, we'll just rub along without a care. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried Line, if the Siegfried Line's still there. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried Line. Have you any dirty washing, mother dear? We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried Line, 'cause the washing day is here. Whether the weather may be wet or fine, we'll just rub along without a care. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried Line, if the Siegfried Line's still there.
We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried Line.
Have you any dirty washing, mother dear?
We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried Line, 'cause the washing day is here. Whether the weather may be wet or fine, we'll just rub along without a care.
We're gonna hang out the washing on the
Siegfried Line, if the Siegfried Line's still there.
Yesterday morning at 2:41 a.m. at General Eisenhower's headquarters, General Jodl signed the act of unconditional surrender of all German land, sea, and air forces in Europe to the Allied Expeditionary Force, and simultaneously to the Soviet High Command. The German war is therefore at an end. But let us not forget for a moment the toils and efforts that lie ahead. Japan, with all her treachery and greed, remains unsubdued. Advance, Britannia! Long live the cause of freedom. God save the King.
your spell. From the first time I kissed you, anyone can tell I've got a heart filled with love for you, dear. For you, dear, filled my heart with love. I've got a heart filled with love for you, dear. For you, dear, fill my heart with love. I've got a dream that is filled with you, dear. For you, dear, fill my dream with love. The moment I saw you, I fell beneath your spell. From the first time I kissed you, anyone can tell I've got a heart filled with love for you, dear. For you, dear, fill my heart with love.
The war years, of course, 1939 through to 1945. So we heard Sid Lipton hanging out the washing on the Siegfried line with Celia Lipton and Ivor Davies taking the vocals there. Another clearly upmarket, upbeat tune, I should say, I suppose, trying to keep morale high, which was so much what music and entertainment was about all the time when there was so much tragedy and gloom and despair for so many years. It was music's part, I suppose, and entertainment and the composers and the musicians then to try and do something to try and keep spirits high, keep people going, which happily, and thank the Lord, they did. And as we heard from the man himself, Winston Churchill, announcing the surrender of Germany in 1945, albeit, of course, that was just VE Day, and, of course, VJ Day, I think, came quite a little bit later on, but still great celebrations then in 1945 as Germany surrenders, and we hear Lou Prager and his band with a heart filled with love. And then, of course, once the war was over, it was a case of trying to rebuild the world, as is always the case after the tragedy of war. Going to build a future world around you, said Geraldo and his orchestra.
build beyond the stars. Now that I've found you, because your love has set my present world apart. I'm going to build a future life around you, a life of dreams and stars that always shine, with love, romance, and kisses I'll surround you. I'm going to build a world in which you're mine.
Building a world which will be mine. Building a world around you. Thinking of building a world, or a new world after the war, of course. I'm going to build a future around you. Geraldo and his orchestra. Well, of course, that's what happened, really. I guess into the 1950s we go now. Pretty much at the upper end, to a large degree, for our programme here. Sweet and Swing, although it was a real crossover, wasn't it, I suppose, that period. I often feel, not being born until the 60s myself, the 50s must have had some. I know rationing was in place for a goodly number of years, but I suppose there must have been some optimism looking forward and some relief after 7 dreary, dreadful years of war and having nothing, and then science was coming, and there were still lots and lots of problems in the world, as indeed there are today. But you get the impression there was some optimism, at least for a time, and a sort of a gleefulness, and everything was embraced, all new scientific things, a lot of which we now have thrown out again, were embraced and smiled upon. Anything that made the housewife's life easier, or anyone's life easier, would be good. But the music was changing, I suppose, as well, and still a lot of our favourites from those eras of the big band era, the swing era from the 30s and 40s, still going into the 1950s, but then new people coming through as well. What about this one? Do you remember this? It was always a favourite of mine when I was a child as well. Burl Ives with Percy Faith on top of Old Smoky.
On top of Old Smoky, all covered with snow,
I lost my true lover from a courting too slow.
4 courting's a pleasure, and parting is grief,
And a false-hearted lover is worse than a thief. A thief will just rob you.
A thief will just rob you,
And take what you say.
and take what you say.
But a false-hearted lover
But a false-hearted love
will lead you to your grave.
will lead you to the grave,
And the grave will decay you
and the grave will decay
and turn you to dust.
and turn you to dust.
Not one girl in 50
Not one girl in 50
that a poor boy can
that a
trust.
poor boy can trust.
They'll hug you and kiss you
They'll hug you and kiss you
and tell you more
tell
lies
you more lies
than the cross ties on the railroad
than cross ties on a railroad
or the stars in the
or
sky.
stars in the sky. So come all you maidens and listen to me. Never place your affections on a green willow tree.
The leaves they will wither,
The leaves they will wither,
the roots they will
the
die.
roots they will
You'll
die.
all be forsaken
You'll all be forsaken
and never know why.
and never know why.
straight into Lullaby of Birdland with, of course, none other than George Shearing. Who else could that have been? Playing in 1952, that was Lullaby of Broadway. Cracking tune, giving it quite a lick there as well with George Shearing and his quintet. The sort of the changing sound, the electric guitar coming in, the vibes sound as well, and that's sort of still a great swing note about that after the, well, folky feel of Burl Ives, I guess. And I was saying austerity still much in evidence in the early 50s. In 1951, the meat ration reduced to the equivalent of 4 ounces of steak per person per week. But there was, again, we were talking about looking forward, in London, the Skylon, the Dome of Discovery, the Royal Festival Hall and Battersea Pleasure Gardens formed the backdrop to the Festival of Britain, of course, opened by the King and Queen, symbolising that new spirit of new hope and attracting thousands and thousands of domestic visitors and also many foreign tourists as well. The suspected spies, Donald MacLean and Guy Burgess, disappeared from London. Old age pensions became payable at 65 for men and 60 for women. Austin and Morris merged, and television, and again, here's a thought, television spreads for the first time to the northwest of England. Anderson, Plink, Plank, Plunk. Hope you've enjoyed this little trawl through the sweet and swing years, right up to 1953. I wish you a very, very happy and healthy new year for 2024. And I'll leave you with a bit of Lita Rosa in 1953. How much is that doggy in the window?
How much is that doggy in the window? The one with the waggly tail. How much is that doggy in the window? I do hope that doggy's for sale. I must take a trip to California and leave my poor sweetheart alone. If he has a dog, he won't be lonesome, and the doggy will have a good home. How much is that doggy in the window? The one with the waggle